Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today we will be talking about Pat Robertson. Pat Robertson is a notorious false teacher. He is a televangelist, host of the 700 Club. So we're going to be asking two questions because I think it's pretty obvious that he's a false teacher. So we're going to ask two follow-up questions. Why is he still around? And who is his audience?
He's going to have a second term. He's going to win. Romney will win the election.
You believe that?
I absolutely believe
What makes you believe that?
Because the Lord told me.
Well, that's why I'm glad to know. I wasn't sure how you knew. Really, the Lord said that to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I told Mitt a long time ago. I told him, I said, listen, I've been in prayer. Number one, you're going to win the nomination. Number two, you're going to win the general election. He said, well, what can I do for you? I said, well, give me a seat on the platform during your inauguration. Give me a ticket to your inauguration. Recently, the Lord said he's going to have a second term. So, I told him, I said, listen, there'll be trillions of dollars coming into the economy when you're elected. Trillions of dollars.
So you do see the economy turning if he wins the election?
There'll be a flood of money that's on the sidelines into business, into real estate, and there should be a huge boom. The stock market ought to boom. Everything ought to boom. I would think if he's elected. If on the other hand...
But the Lord told you he will be.
Yes.
I trust God's voice.
The Erdogan is a thug. He has taken control of his country as a dictator. He is a strong leader, and to say he's an ally of America is nonsense. He is in for himself. And the president who allowed Khashoggi to be cut in pieces without any repercussions whatsoever is now allowing the Christians and the Kurds to be massacred by the Turks. And I believe, and I want to say this with great solemnity, the President of the United States is in danger of losing the mandate of heaven if he permits this to happen.
So the clips that you just watched were just a few examples of absolute clownery by Pat Robertson. And it's a wonder why Disney still has him on the air, because he clearly sucks at political analysis. He sucks at it. He's an amateur. He also is a false prophet. I mean, he made the claim that God told him Mitt Romney would be a two-term president. And then he's also a clown when it comes to eschatology. So he's an end times nut. And not, this mandate of heaven language is a Chinese construct, of the right to rule for a dynasty, So it's not even a Christian idea. He's a clown. So why is he still on the air? And who is his audience? So in the clips, I think the answer to who watches Pat Robertson was clear. And, Right Wing Watch is a curator of a lot of Pat Robertson's statements. And if you type Pat Robertson on YouTube, you will get a lot of left-wing media using Pat Robertson. They're either making fun of him or using him as a foil against Trump or conservatism in general. So, as you can see, there's a clear audience for Pat Robertson among left-wing hate watchers. Now, it's true that with the guest that Pat Robertson has on his show, like in that Mitt Romney clip, that was Benny Hinn on his show that he was talking to, I think. So, there is an audience of people who think Benny Hinn is a faith healer, and people that like Kenneth Copeland, people who are very much into televangelists. Pat Robertson taps into that audience, but I think his main audience is left-wing hate watchers. Because, like I said, when you look him up on YouTube, you're not seeing a whole lot of affirmative clips of his show. You're seeing left-wing news sources hating on him. Usually like Secular Talk or Right Wing Watch. So this begs the second question: why is he still on the air? And I think the answer is controlled opposition. If you are as left-wing as Disney is, and they're in bed with the Chi-Coms, you want to paint your opposition as Pat Robinson. That is your ideal. That is your ideal opponent. Someone who's an end times nut, who prophesies falsely and is an amateur at political analysis. That's what you want on the other team. That's why Pat Robinson's allowed to stay on the air. And I don't think there's a better answer for that. So Evangelical Dark Web is a discernment ministry. And what we do differently is that a lot of places online for discernment either fall into one or two categories. Either they write a lot about very few people, and those people are usually your Pat Robinsons or your Brian Houstons, your Joel Osteens, or they have like a giant list, and there's like no evidence for false teaching under this giant list, or it's very shallow and inconclusive. Like, I wouldn't, that's not a smoking gun, or you'll see these nuts that believe that lordship salvation is a false teaching, and I don't think that's true at all. So you'll see stuff like that. So what Evangelical Dark Web does is that we do intense research on a public teacher upon reader request. So a reader will submit her name, and if enough readers submit the same person, we do an intense research paper on them to answer the question whether or not they are a false teacher. And not everyone is a false teacher. So we do discernment a little differently, and we, to provide you information on a question you may have instead of sticking to very obvious false teachers like Pat Robinson. So do check out discernment at evangelicaldarkweb.org. Do also subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and I will catch you on the next one.